Because I guess kama ningeenda US without going any other place, probably ninge mess up. But because I was exposed and had seen the life behind, enye ama zile vitu sikufanya, now I wanted to do those things.
So for those 6 years,
yes,
kazi yako ilikuwa tu kazi?
Kazi. Mine was kazi. Even my friends can attest to that. Even they walikuwa some of them were really mad with me. They were calling me like, hey, I'm sorry, can I neza ongea jina celebrity flani? Oh, Samido is around, can we go? Sijui tuende tukaone concert yake? I'm like, no. And they're like, hey, kwani hiyo kazi ni ya babako?
On this episode of Tuko Talks, our guest is Lilian Muthoni Washuka, aka Shukks. She has worked in the UK, also lived there, and then traveled to work in the US. She has been there for the last 6 years, and she has now found peace and tranquility in this wilderness back here in Kenya. Let's listen to her story from Kenya to the UK and the US. My name is Kingori Wangeshi.
My name is Lilian Muthoni Washuka, but I'm best known by the name Shukks, which I think hiyo ndio jina kila mtu anajua. I'm a mother of one boy who is 20 years old now. I come from a family of 5, 2 brothers and 3 sisters, and I'm the last born in our family.
Last borns, karibuni. What do you do for a living as of now?
I'm an event organizer at the moment, and I also run pool table businesses here and there. That's what I'm doing at the moment.
All right. Now we are here because of your story.
Right.
Journey of life. It has now come full circle.
Right.
Where does it begin?
Wow, that's a good question. It begins from, I was born and bred in Nairobi, specifically from a place called Number 10, which is just opposite Isili Moi Airways. That's where we were born. And I went to nursery school in Moi Airways, Ukondani. That's where nilisomea nursery school. And at some point, nikajipata niko pia DOD, which sijui kama nilikuwa nursery, and then I went to pre-unit, hapo kidogo inanichanganya. But that's how things were. And then from there, I went to Muslim primary school, which is just next to Starehe Boys. Then after that, nikaingia high school, and I've been to a couple of secondary schools. I don't know if I should mention them.
Not mention them, really,
yeah.
But why?
God, I don't even know why. I'll just say the stubbornness, your last bonds. Okay. You know, just, you don't like the school, you're like stuck here. They take you to another one. I was never a stubborn girl. But I was just spoiled. Let me use that word.
Nyinyi ndio hamshautiwi.
Me sishautiwi because my family loves me so much. Yeah.
So at what point did you decide to leave Kenya to go abroad?
Okay. When I finished high school, I had a friend, actually our neighbor, a lady that we grew up with, alikuwa na family members in Germany. So the lady akani inspire. I was like, can we try and go to Germany, blah, blah, blah. So I told my brother, my big brother, who is my best friend, my everything. He's like my dad. So my brother was like, sawa, if you guys get a visa, na your time visa equal, like you go to the embassy and get a real visa, ilikuwa unaenda Germany, when you get at the airport, Frankfurt, unapigiwa stamp. It was just a paper. So it was easy to go there. So I went to Germany, I was in Frankfurt, then I went to Fulda, Dusseldorf. But then sikupenda Germany for some reason because of the language barrier, which sikuwa nimesomea Kijerumani. You know, when you just decide to go somewhere, but hujafanya research. So I called my mom and I told my mom, Mommy, it's hard because naenda kwa supermarket, kila kitu imeandikwa na Kijerumani, naenda kutafuta job. It was so hard for me because I couldn't communicate with those guys. So my mom was like, sawa, you come back home. By then my 2 sisters were in the UK. So rudi nyumbani, your sisters probably watakutafutia nini ya kwenda UK. So I came back in 1998, time ya bomb blast. Actually I came back the following day after the bomb blast. Ndio nililand Kenya.
And you know we're in August.
Yes, and that was August. Yes, 1998. Ndio nilikuwa nimerudi kutoka Germany. So thank God sikukaa sana. My sisters wakatafuta shule. Everything went through. 3 months down the line, December 16th, 1998, nikaenda UK.
So you went to Germany right after
high school.
Okay.
Yes.
You didn't go to college?
I didn't go to college in Kenya.
What did you go to do in UK?
So in the UK, I enrolled in college and I did air travel and customer care. I think I did a diploma which took me 2 years. And after that, I started working.
Right in the UK?
Yes. I was in healthcare. So nikafanya job. In 2006, I think, that's when my son was born there.
In the UK?
In the UK. So it was hard for me to juggle work and kumwangalia mtoto. So I called my mom and I was like, Mommy, it's so hard for me. I don't know what to do. So they said, you come back home. Ukae hapa. Mtoto akikuwa mkubwa, you can decide to go somewhere else. So I came back to Kenya in 2009.
Before coming back to Kenya, I have a question about the UK.
Okay.
You studied air travel.
Yes.
And then you also in healthcare.
Yes.
How were you managing or balancing the two?
I would say air travel for me ilikuwa tu kusoma. I didn't sikutilia manani sana. Yeah, but healthcare was what was in me up to now. I mean, I just love it. I love taking care of people, just being there for them.
So what exactly were you doing in healthcare in the UK?
Okay, I was a caregiver. So I worked in care homes. I worked in facilities, just taking care of wagonjwa, elderly, vitu kama hizo.
You trained for it as well?
I was trained for it in the UK, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then you flew back to Kenya?
Then I flew back to Kenya in 2009. So nikakaa Kenya like 2 years, 2009 till 2011. Then I got a job at KQ. So nikaingia KQ.
Now you are working for what you had trained for initially in the UK.
I wouldn't say that is exactly what I was doing. I would say I was a transport controller.
Okay.
Because I used to work with actually company contracted by Kenya Airways to transport passengers from the airport, like when their flights are delayed, cancelled, to different hotels.
Okay.
So I was a controller. Yeah, wa hizo to make sure passengers wametoka kwa ndege, wameingia kwa magari, tumapeleka Panari Hotel, like Regency, you know, all those hotels. I used to work with them.
Okay. How long did you do that?
I did that for 6 years until 2016. Ndio nilitoka KQ, and then nikakaa home for that 1 year. I was trying business. So I used to go to Bangkok. I buy things here and there. Niangalie how things will work. And at some point nikafikiria to let me try this America, nasikianga America. Wacha nione kama nitapata visa. So I went to the embassy and that was it. I got the visa with 2 questions. Where are you going and for how long? Hakukuwa na so many questions.
Not like today.
No. Probably because of my passports.
Oh, yes,
ziko sawa. So unajua wakiangalia wanaona you have a lot of visas from different places. Hawakuuliza maswali mengi.
Okay.
Yeah.
And had you decided what you're going to do in the US when you live in Kenya?
Same thing. I knew I was going to work because I needed to change my life. Because I have friends there and I have family members there. I have cousins in the US. So when I was going there, nilijua, this is it. This is the time. I need to change my life. I need to do things differently from what I did when I was in the UK. Because then I was so young. I didn't do a lot. I would say that. I mean, 12 years in the UK, but I didn't do so much.
Okay.
So nikienda US, I was so focused. I knew what I really wanted.
And what is that you really wanted?
What I wanted was, I needed to change my life. I needed God to change my story. You know, nikuwe mtu tofauti, not the way I was before.
Which state did you land in?
First of all, nikifika US, I went to Knoxville, Tennessee. And the reason nilienda huko because the invitation that nilipata ya kwenda US,
okay,
hiyo ndio ilikuwa destination. So you know, normally lazima ufike to the destination first before you go somewhere else. So I got there and then nilikaa, I think just for a day. I went to my cousin's place in PA, Pennsylvania, in a place called Harrisburg. I stayed with them for 3 weeks. Then from there, I have a very, very wonderful friend called Betty Ezi, ako kwa YouTube. She used to be my friend in London, so tumekuwa friends all along. And actually, yeye ndio alinialika US. She was like, come. And that time sikuwa nasikia kwenda US, but ikilifika time nikamwambia, okay, now I'm ready. So when I got there, she was like, come to Arizona. Ni rahisi kupata job, nini. So nikiwa PA at my cousin's place, I told my cousin, I want to go to Phoenix, Arizona. That's where Betty was staying. And my cousins were like, sawa, if kutakuwa kuzuri, you go. Kama kutakuwa kuzuri, you come back. And I went there. And I would say it favored me. Phoenix favored me.
Is that where you've lived all along?
Yes, all along, Phoenix, Arizona. But I've been to so many states.
For how many years?
6 years.
Okay. So what did you start doing?
First of all, when I landed, the first thing you do, you have to go for classes, because there's something, you know, when we say about caregiving, lazima uende usome caregiving huko. There's no way utafanya caregiving Kenya, uende uchukuliwe huko as a caregiver. They need their barua zao. So I went there, I did caregiving. Then it's not just caregiving, you do caregiving, then you do your first aid, a fingerprint, I think it's like yenye tunaendaga CID, how is it called? Yeah, you have to do something like that. There's a lot of procedure, lazima ufanye, and then you get an ID before sasa uingie a job. So that's what I did.
But you finally got a job.
I did get a job.
How was it?
At first it was hard for me, because first of all, uko nchi mpya, and the people that I got at the place that I went to work were Filipinos. See what was vile. Yeah, they're a bit mean. So it was frustrating for me kidogo. But I thank God for the people that I got there wenye walini host, because walinisaidia. Kama sikupenda hiyo place, they used to walinipeleka job ingine, na ingine. So nika get used to the system.
You had done caregiving in the UK.
Yeah.
It can be a challenge in the US, can it be?
It can be for so many reasons. Number one, kwanza wacha nianze hapa. Kizungu yetu ya Kenya ni kizungu ya England. Like the way tunasoma, the way we understand things. Kizungu ya America si the same. So when you get there, you are like, mtu anaongea kitu unashindwa anasema nini. Understand, kizungu yao ni different. Like for example, sisi boot ya gari tunasema boot, si ndio? Au ni trunk. So when somebody says trunk, you're like, what is trunk?
Trunk, I only know the elephant's trunk.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, takataka sisi hapa tunatupa, tunasema, you know, that's rubbish.
There is trash.
Trash. You see, so kizungu kidogo ni ngumu, of which unapata saa zingine hata ukienda kufanya exam, hiyo exam si ati ni ngumu, but just the language. Unajaribu kuifikiria unashindwa, you know? Yeah.
Okay.
So
for 6 years you've been doing caregiving.
Yes.
How has it been, or how was it? Like give us the dynamics. Were you working a single shift, 2 shifts, or what were you exactly doing?
I used to work 3 jobs, and first of all, kazi yangu mchana, I used to work as a behavioral assistant, which nilikuwa nachunga young guys when you're alcoholics. It's like a rehab. You know, when you're wamevuta mabanki, madawa, all that. So I used to do like 8 to 8 there, ama 8 to 6, depending. Then from 6 nikitoka, I take a cab to another job na ingia night shift. Sasa hii night shift ilikuwa kwa washosho wazee. Unaenda pale unapata, of course, wamelala. So your work is just kuwapatia maybe medication ya 9 o'clock ama 8 o'clock, and then you do your rounds, you do the laundry, you do the notes. Hivyo tu, like you need to be awake the whole night, because lazima ushinde ukiangalia every 2 hours. Yeah. And
is it a single client, or was it in a...
No, it's not a single client. Most of them were like 5 or 8.
Together?
A maximum of, yes, either 5 or 8.
So it is in a home?
It's a home.
Oh, okay.
It's a home.
An elderly
homes, yes. And I also used to work in facilities, which are so big. A facility inaweza kuwa kama Kenyatta National Hospital, or, you know, pia hizo ziko, but bado ni za wazee. But they're called facilities. They are so big. Yeah.
Okay. That is the second job. The other one? The third one?
Again, ilikuwa care home. We are 5 people.
Okay.
Hiyo nilikuwa naingia Friday jioni, and natoka Sunday jioni. Yes. It was called a live-in. So nikiingia huko sitoki mpaka Sunday.
Or live-in.
Live-in. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes.
For one person.
I mean, I had to do it. I had no way out.
What time were you sleeping or resting?
Una rest tu, saa zile umekaa kwa kiti, ukilala like 1 hour, kengele ikilia, you open your eyes and you have to go on.
It was like clockwork for you?
For me, it was a clockwork, and it's okay. I mean, that's what I wanted, because sikuwa nataka waste time. I wanted to work so hard for the shortest time that I can, me niende home, because me, I love Kenya. I love home.
How was the remuneration, the pay?
Oh, the pay was good.
I
don't want to say. I don't want to say anything about it, but the pay was good.
No wonder you were working like clockwork.
The pay was good. Actually, ndio nilikuwa nafanya kazi hivyo. You know, when you know that you're getting good money somewhere, I'm sure hata pa Kenya, if you're getting a job na uko sure that unapata pesa mzuri, hautalala.
True.
Hautalala.
Most of us would not sleep.
Because I would think about my pay slip, and you know, as guys, you used to get paid every 2 weeks, and I'm like, God, let me keep going. You know, just God, give me the strength to carry on. na nasonga.
So at that time, your son is in Kenya, right?
My son was in Kenya with my brother.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you are sending support as he grew up, education and all that.
Yes, I think, if you would allow me to just say a little bit about that. My brother is a wonderful, wonderful person that, I don't know if anybody has a brother like that in Kenya. I never used to send money for my son's upkeep. Never. They never called me for any money. Hawakunipigia kuniambia tuma, do this and that. No. I only used to pay school fees. That was it. So they gave me peace of mind.
He gave you
work
to
out
fly
there and do your stuff. Yes.
Ah, interesting.
To my brother, Alex Chege, with your family, I want to thank you guys so, so very much. Hata sijui nitawashukuru aje for taking care of Pharrell. I don't take it for granted. I know you guys did a great job. I have a wonderful boy who is so respective. Ni mtoto mzuri. People love him. Ako na heshima sana. And if not for you guys, I don't know where I would be today. So I owe my success to you guys too. Yeah.
We tell people here, give them their flowers.
Yes, that's what I'm giving them, their flowers right now.
Yes, thank you. So what were your investment goals or ideas when you are working and getting quite a good returns for your hard work?
Right.
What were you planning to do with what you are getting?
Okay. Number one, when I left Kenya, the first thing that was in my mind was, if you have a house in Kenya, probably everything else would be a bit easier. That was my mind when I was living here. So nikienda, the first thing I wanted to do ni kujenga nyumba. The other thing that I wanted also was buying pieces of lands and plots, because my mom used to do that a lot.
You said your name is?
Lilian Muthoni.
Okay.
So I think my mom instilled that into us because she did the same. Ali buy a lot of lands and plots. So I think alituwekea hiyo nini sana. So I really wanted to, do better. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what I did.
Okay.
Exactly what I did. And I wish she was here. She would be really proud of me. Yeah.
We'll get to that, to your goals a bit later. So how can you compare life in the UK and the US for yourself? Let's leave Germany because you didn't like it because of the language barrier. But UK and the US is where you've lived for a longer time.
For the longest, yes.
About 18 years.
Yeah.
12 and 6. How do the two lives compare?
For me, first of all, I would say, of course, UK for me felt like home because I've been there for so long. 12 years, Simchezo. That was home for me. But nikifanya kazi, the money that I used to get there, siwezi compare na ile pesa nimekuwa napata nikiwa US. It's like 20 times of what I used to get.
Really?
And when I look back, I'm like, kwa nini?
I would have started with the US.
Yeah, and I'm like, I wish this 12 years ndio ningekuwa US. Because if in 6 years, I was able to build a house worth 11 million, bought pieces of land, na mashamba, and my son was in one of the best international schools. I used to pay, actually, I think the first, when my bro alinitumia your whatever sleep ya kulipa shule, the first one was, it was a lot of money, and I was like, how am I going to do this? But I did it. Nilipa. Mpaka kamaliza. Yeah.
So the US for you favored you?
For me, US favored me. And I don't know whether it's because I was a bit wiser, nikiwa huko sasa, and probably nilijua niko na,
you have a
other
responsibility.
Things to, But UK for me was a no-no. I don't know whether I was so young at that time.
And naive.
Sasa ilikuwa ni fashion and, as long as you buy a nice dress, you look good on the pictures, that was it. Yeah, but I didn't do so much in the UK.
I think you went to US when you were a bit
when
mature.
I was focused, yes.
So for those 6 years, how many times did you come back to Kenya for?
I never came back. And the reason why I never came back is, US and UK, you cannot compare. When you travel to the UK, if you're given like a visitor's visa, like your 2 years, you can always come back in multiple entry. Unaweza taingia leo and you come back tomorrow. And then you go back. But your US, if you're given 5 years visa, ukifika pale, wanakupigia stamp ya 6 months. So in that 6 months, you're supposed to exit after 5 months. How would I have done that? Na nimeenda ku change my life. So what happened is nili overstay. Na ku overstay sasa umeharibu
Status.
Umeharibu kitabu. We say that. Yeah.
So how did you
so
maneuver?
Ukiharibu kitabu, you decide to stay, do what you have to do, and then come back when you're ready.
Oh, okay. You must have, of course, met other Kenyans who are there and they are doing their things, right? What was your relationship and friendship with them?
With other Kenyans? Actually, I met Kenyans, but I wouldn't say that I was so close to them because life huko ni hard. Everyone is busy. Hakuna mtu akona time na wewe. There's no one to talk to. There's no one to kama Kenya utasema let me go and say hi to my neighbor ama so and so. You would even stay in the house for 3 weeks na usione mtu. So we were just friends. We used to talk on the phone. But ile kuonana, it was really hard unless there's a function. And again, those functions you cannot just go every time. Maybe once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you decide to come back to Kenya and why?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'll go back a little bit in 2018 when I was just 6 months in the US. My mom passed away.
Oh, sorry.
So when my mom passed away, my bro took my son in. And hapo ndo nilianza kufikiria sasa, wacha nijenge, wacha nifanye mambo yangu, I go back home. Because actually I'd promised my mom when I was living in Kenya. Nilimwambia mami, after this 5 years visa, mimi narudi home. So hiyo ni kitu ilikuwa kwangu. I knew that I was going back. So fast forward in 2022, no, 2000, COVID time,
2020.
Was it 2020?
2020, yes.
Yeah, 2020, that's when I started building this house. And then at some point, ika stop because kulikuwa na hiyo niliambiwa kuna movements like watu wezi enda from one place to another, something like that.
There was a
so
lockdown.
Mafundi hawangeweza ku move. So I stopped for a year. I think I started it again in 2021. And then in 2022 it was done. When it was done, the first thing I started doing is to ship stuff from the US. So I started buying stuff nikituma to a few boxes here and there every month. Natuma, and I check what I'm buying. So natik, najua hii nimemalizana nayo, hivyo.
Stuff like?
Household
Okay,
stuff.
okay.
Yeah. When I was done, my house was done, I had shipped everything. I was like, sasa, I'm going back home. Yeah.
How were you managing to oversee the construction of the house in absentia?
It was not easy. But I thank a few friends of mine. I have wonderful friends. One of them is called Rafael Waweru. He was there for me. I used to call him, namwambia, leo niko na mafundi wa stima, go check what are they doing. Kama stima iko sawa, he'll come, check, take a video, send it to me. So that's how I used to do it. It was not easy. It was not easy. Kama nikukuliwa, nimekuliwa. Because ile pesa nimetumia kwa hii nyumba, I think if I was in Kenya, it could have been less. So kuchezwa nimechezwa. But again, I thank God I found a house.
Yes.
Yeah.
How was your transition from the US to now relocation and resettlement? And why did you choose this area?
I'll tell you why I chose this area. I had plots, no, actually I have plots in different places, but most of them are 50 by 100s. And some of them are, I think, 60 by 40. So niliangalia, and I was like, I need a bigger place. I like a quiet place, na place kubwa. You know, where I can either do a little bit of shamba kidogo, I can park enough cars when I have visitors, if I have a bash, you know, place, niko na space. So this is where I landed because this is 1/4 acre.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I decided to come to Roy because of that.
All right. How was your transition now to living caregiving in America back to Kenya?
Transition was good because I was already, nilikuwa set. You know, I had thought about it for a long, actually like 2 years back. And I knew now, naenda home. This is the date. I was excited. And nikakuja home.
What was your first impression after 6 years? Now, what did you find having changed here in Kenya?
Oh, so many things. Barabara, flyovers, nilipata flyovers mingi sana. And I was excited about it. Actually, it was good. That was a very good thing. The other thing pia nilifurahia is polisi everywhere. You know, like hata kwa barabara, kuna polisi everywhere.
You had not
for
left
security
that?
reasons. No, before unaweza pata polisi yako Isili, the other one is in town, the other one is in Pangani. It was walikuwa scattered. But now they're everywhere, which I think is good for security reasons. Nilifind hiyo kitu kiwa different. And I've been talking to my driver about it. Every time tuko kwa gari namwambia, I love this. Wako polisi wako everywhere, you know. Sikuacha hiyo. So for me, that's a plus.
Okay.
Yeah, barabara, it's a plus. Expressway, I love it. I use that all the time. Okay. Story ya jam staki. Yeah, so.
Now, with all the exposure in the UK and the US, how has it helped you to settle back now in Kenya?
I would say settling back, I mean, vile tu nimekwambia, it's something that I had already thought about it, and nikakuja, nikasettle. Of course, it was not easy. You know, when you come home, everything is different. The way people treat you, sometimes unaenda kununua kitu, unachajiwa like twice the price, just because of the way you look. Or probably siju kama ni kuongea ama the way you look. So
yes, how was your integration now into the society? You have been here for 2 years, right?
Yes.
How was your integration?
Still kuna issues, I would say, here and there, and she can tell you about it. So ingine tunaenda kwa duka ama tunaenda sokoni, I'm going to buy watermelon and I'm like, ni pesa ngapi? At 500. I'm like, really? So naiacha, and then when I send her 150 anapewa. I don't know why.
Why don't you switch?
And the guys are like, hey, tukikuangalia tu hivi hiyo 500 utatoa. So yeah.
Okay. And business-wise?
Business-wise is good. Siwezi complain. Yeah, I would say it's good. Yeah, siwezi complain.
Can you explain what you're doing?
Like I do events.
What does that entail?
I have like vitu za events zote. You know, bouncing castles, tents, cooking stuff, utensils, nini. So my job is just hiring them out.
Okay.
CRT, I have to be there. Just hiring them out, and then now the pool tables. That's all I do. And for me, it's peaceful because you don't have to be there.
How did you settle on those two ideas?
For the events, hiyo ni kitu nilifikiria when I was in the US. I really wanted to do that. I've always wanted to work smart. I never wanted to work hard. Taka tu vitu zi happen. I don't have to be there. So nilikafikiria story events, and that's when I started buying the bouncing castles, nini. Pole. Hizo vitu nilinua when I was in the US, siku hapa. So when I came, ndio nikafikiria sasa historia ya pool table. I came across it somewhere, then nikaangalia, nika research, and then I started, and yeah, it's good.
Okay. So what does your day look like? Because, I mean, you have done 3 jobs before. Now here, things are happening in your absence.
I know. God, my day is, I don't know. Number one, naweza sema, I'm okay, I'm relaxing. I'm chilling out. You know, it was hectic for me. Kufanya kazi usiku na mchana, no sleep, no nothing. Unaona, saizi niko na enough time ya kurelax. But niko na shida ya kulala usiku, so most of the time at night I'm awake. I sleep in the morning, mostly. Nalalanga morning hours. Yeah. But I would say, yeah, sai ni kupumzika. It's time to chill out. Yeah, there's time for everything.
Do you feel like you achieved what you wanted?
I think I did. I've achieved more than I wanted, and I'm blessed.
Amen.
Yeah.
There's something that I picked as we were beginning. You went to the US to change your story.
Right.
Did you?
I did change my story. I'm a landlord. I'm an entrepreneur. And I think I'm so much more than that. Si kitu ningefikiria naweza kuwa. Actually, nikiangalia back to where I came from, you know, I was born and raised, na vile tulilelewa mpaka mahali tumefika. And the people that I grew up with, they can attest to that. I didn't know I would be here today. And I'll just give you a small story to back to penye tulizaliwa.
Pale number 10.
Yes. We never had bathrooms. Okay, let me use the word toilets, because the US wanatumia the word bathrooms. We never had toilets in penye tulikuwa tunaishi. So you had to go and pay kuingia kwa choo. So you know, you pay like 5 bob. And unaingia kwa choo, even before you do whatever you have to do, somebody has knocked your bathrooms. And now look at me. How many toilets do I have? 4 toilets. What can I say about that? Ingine hata tutumia, it's even a year, I think. Hakuna mtu ameshaingia. And I feel I'm blessed. I never knew I would get to this point. Hata naweza kuwa na hizo choo, hata naweza ingia nisome gazeti. Nobody's going to knock the door. Yeah.
Yes, because I wanted you to speak to a 12-year-old who was in a place that, or who is in a place that you were then.
Yes.
You were then.
Yes.
Before leaving. What words can you tell them?
I can tell them that everything is possible. You just need to be focused whatever you dream, hakuna kitu haiwezekani. Ile haiwezekani ni ile hatujaanza. But everything is possible. If anybody had told me way back when I was 12 years, I'm at 13, that I would be where I am today, singekubali. But again, see God. And God did it.
God did it.
Yeah.
How was your social life, both in the UK and the US?
My social life has always been good. I'm someone who really integrates with people very well. People love me. I have a lot of friends. Yeah.
And do you love them back?
Oh, I do. Oh, I love people. Me ni mtu wa watu. I talk, I love people. And yeah.
Now, there's somebody also who is in the US and they are planning to maybe relocate or to come back to Kenya or to go back to their country.
Right.
What lessons have you learned that you would share with them?
First of all, what I say is the fear. You know, most of the people out there, wako na ile fear of going back home. You should get that fear out of you, first of all. Secondly, you should start preparing yourself. You know, nataka kwenda home. What do I want to go and do? Where will I start from? Then start from there. I mean, when you're abroad, home si pali utaamka tu useme I'm going home tomorrow. No, you have to plan. It takes time. You know, you have to plan, especially when you know mali umetoka. Unajua, tumekutana huko abroad. Kila mtu amekuja na style yake. Kuna mtu ametoka tu family mzuri. Yeye ako huko kuchill, kurelax, having fun with all these big cars and houses with swimming pools. Kuna wengine wetu tumeenda kuhustle, tumeenda kutafuta. So we are never the same. And that's why when people are abroad unapata wengine wanasema walifika. Some people pia walifika. They are there. You cannot tell them to come back to Kenya kufanya nini. Atakuuliza naenda Kenya kufanya nini. So everyone is different. Everyone is different.
There are also Kenyans who are in the US and they are sending support or they send money to Kenya for things like either purchase of land, building of houses or investments.
Right.
How did you manage that? Because some of them have not been as lucky as you were.
Ooh. I think mine, I would say, is just God. I won't say yangu ni Mungu tu. Mungu alinionekania. It was not easy. And as I've just told you, nilikuwa na mafundi hapa. I think I had like 5 fundis. Nilikuwa na shida nikiwatoa. I bring another one because kucheza nimechezwa, kukuliwa nimekuliwa. So it's never a straight line. So ni kitu tu, you just have to believe, and it's not easy. I wouldn't say it's easy. It's not easy. Sio rahisi.
Would you go back?
Where?
No,
not at the moment. UK? Probably later in life. Yeah.
To stay or?
No. Just to visit. No. For now, I'm retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not stereotypical, but most of the people that I have seen return are fairly older. They are fairly aged. Yours has come very early, and you're saying you're retired. How did that happen?
We go back to the time I was in the UK, because I was so young when I was there. I think pia nilikuwa exposed, and I think that really helped me when I got the opportunity to go to the US. Hiyo ndio ilinisaidia, because I guess kama ningeenda US without going any other place, probably ninge mess up. But because I was exposed and I had seen the life behind, enye ama zile vitu sikufanya, now I wanted to do those things. So again, siwezi blame our watu who are older and they are still there doing whatever they're doing. No.
So you're saying that the 6 years in the US, you did much more than the 12 years?
12 years in the UK. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. I would like to compare the UK and the US a little bit for purposes of our viewer to understand.
All right.
What places did you visit in the UK? Where exactly were you working? I know they don't have states like the United States.
Yeah, but we have
counties or something.
Yes. Whatever. Yeah. I used to live in a place called Reading. And I've visited so many places like Oxford, Coventry, Basingstoke, Birmingham, Manchester. You know, I have friends all over. So, and of course, central London, where I used to go for shopping a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Now, coming back to Kenya, how do you compare, the lives, the 3 lives, UK, US, Kenya?
I would say First of all, Kenya for me is home. Home sweet home. You know, huku ni nyumbani. Whichever way it is, huku ni home. But I cannot compare Kenya with US or UK. I can never do that. Number one, jobs. Hakuna jobs Kenya. Abroad kuna jobs. Hawaangalii education yako, waangalie umefika wapi. As long as unaweza ongea English, you're good to go. The pay is really good out there. So huwezi compare pay yenye tunapata. Si tunapata pay yenye, I think, I would say minister napata. Hata si minister.
In the US?
Almost karibu president.
In the US?
In a month. Hiyo ndo tunapata huko. So in Kenya, ni job gani unaweza fanya hapo upate hiyo do?
How about expenses?
Of course, expenses ziko. We have rent and bills to pay, which of course are a bit high. But again, it depends with your lifestyle. For example, like me, I would say I was a bit smart. First of all, mi sikuwa na nyumba. I was hosted. Na penye nilikuwa nimehostiwa, nilikuwa tunalipa $200, which is not a lot of money. Because at least meals zangu zinakuja hapo, barua and all that. And I didn't have any other bills. The other bill was my phone bills. That was it. I never had a car in the US. Mi nilikuwa napanda cab ama trains, going to one place to the other. Yeah.
Let's talk about this hosting thing. Relatives, right?
No, friends.
Okay.
Friends.
Why were you paying $200?
You have to pay. I mean, when someone hosts you, see, it's like giving you a room. Hiyo ni normal. Lazima ulipe. Ni kama mtu akupea room.
You were hosted for 6 years?
Yes. But I was never there. I was working day and night. I would come back there like after 3 months for like 2-3 hours, check my mails and I'm out.
So where were you living?
At work. One job to another. So si niko hapa day shift, natoka na ingine night shift, nikitoka ile night shift narudi ile day shift. So I never had
you know, I'm asking because of change of clothes, showering.
No, I had hizo place nilikuwa nafanya job, kulikuwa na nguo zangu. Because we wear things called scrub. Tuko na hizo nguo zinaitwa scrub. Yeah. So uko tu na ka paper bag, nothing much. Most of my clothes zilikuwa huko where I was hosted. Which hauvai, utavaa ukienda wapi?
So for those 6 years,
yes,
kazi yako ilikuwa tu kazi?
Kazi. Mine was kazi. Even my friends can attest to that. Even they walikuwa some of them were really mad with me. They were calling me like, hey, I'm sorry, can I naweza ongea jina celebrity fulani? Oh, Samido is around, can we go to tukaone concert yake? I'm like, no. And they're like, hey, kwani hiyo kazi ni ya babako? Yeah, that's how I used to work.
So you said it was in Arizona?
Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix is Arizona. Phoenix, Arizona.
That was your home? That was
my home.
Okay, I don't know. Were you crazy about work or what was it?
I don't think I was crazy. I think I knew what I wanted. And the only way out was work. Sikuwa na choice. I had to work. Because if I didn't do that, I don't think I would be here right now. Because there are people who are there. I have friends who are there. They work like Monday to Friday. Weekends, zote wana chill. They're having fun. Na wako tu, and they have nothing. But that's their life. That's what they chose. But I needed a different life. Mine was like, nataka hii, nitapata aje.
Now, back to Kenya. This is we'll keep skipping from UK, US, Kenya. As you do your businesses, and here you are,
right?
We can say that you have what we call the passive income.
Right.
You do not necessarily need to be there, but there is some income coming in. Is it able to sustain your lifestyle?
Yes, it's able to sustain me. I can fuel my car, go wherever I want to go. Yeah.
Okay. There's something interesting about this house. Power.
Yes. Yes. This house is powered by solar, the whole house. I have a solar system, which costed me 580,000. And the company is here in Kenya. And so far I love it. Haijawai zima, and it's all weather. They told me it was all weather, but nimekubali it's all weather. Because even when hakuna jua, it's still working. Nothing is off. The TV is on, I mean the fridge is on, everything is on.
The idea, did it come from the US, the UK, or how did you decide that now I will have solar powered house?
Okay. To be honest, the area that I live in, first of all, stima haijafika. Actually, imefika tu just, you see where you came from? Hapa nyuma? Hapo ndo mwisho. So I think we are the next. So when I was told stima haijafika, I was like, I'm coming back home. Nitakaje without stima. So the first thing that came was just like a solar. But hiyo kuweka solar, I had to call different people because nilikuwa nashindwa sasa ni solar gani nitaweka. Ile itaweza ku, you know, to deal with everything that I wanted. So first of all, I sent someone, a friend in Luthuli Avenue. Akaenda, akapatia mtu wa solar simu. I spoke to the guy. He was like, okay, nataka solar, iko hivi na hivi na hivi. So the guy was like, sawa, itakukost 90,000. So I was like, sawa. So I was so happy. I was like, hey, 90,000, that's good. So solar ikaletwa, just one panel, kila kitu kafixiwa. 2 months down the line, I called the caretaker who was here. My caretaker, nikamuuliza, how is the solar working? Akaniambia, mama, hii ikifika saa 3 usiku inazima. I was like, what? So nikaanza ku research tena. I did it myself. I just went on Facebook.
Did you tell him the size of the house?
I did. The guy now in Luthuli, ule nilipewa namba yake. I told him, because aliniuliza, how big is the house, 4 bedroom? Unataka kutumia nini na nini? You have to tell them whether I have a fridge, and wanakuuliza kama ni TV, how many TVs you have, nini na nini. Nilikuwa nimesema kila kitu. But it wasn't working right. So hapo ndo nika decide, no, I have to change these things, because I knew there's no way nitafika Kenya uniambie nitoe $500,000 niweke solar. That's not going to work for me. Nitaona kama nimeibiwa. So I wanted to do everything when I was there. So I got this company, and ule anataka ataniambia. I got this company, so nikawapigia, and then I sent a friend of mine, because you know watu wanakuaga con, you never know. So nikamwambia friend yangu, go there, see, talk to those guys, confirm wako na hizo vitu, see how it is, and then let me know. So my friend went there, akanitumia video akiongea na wao, akaonyeshwa panels, akaonyeshwa everything, akaexplainiwa kila kitu, and I was like, sawa, 580,000 wekeni. And that was deal done.
And then you call the caretaker, tells you?
Yeah, I called him and I was like, sasa, how is the steamer? The steamer is good. Haizimi mpaka sisi wenyewe ndo tunazima. Yeah. So okay. Then I was happy.
What style did you construct this house in?
This house is called an attic floor. Attic floor mostly is in Akwaga, UK. I mean, that's the design over there. So when I called my architect, tukianza kuchora nyumba, there's a way alikuwa amenichorea, and I was like, I don't think that's what I want. So nikam walk through what I really wanted. So we did it like I think 3 times. The 3rd time ndo nikakuwa like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. And that's what we did. So when you're outside, you might just think it's a bungalow. But when you're inside, it's another story.
All right.
Yeah.
There's a question that I will not leave without asking. Lilian's love life.
Oh my goodness, do I have to say this? All right, okay. Yeah, I have someone in my life. I'm seeing someone.
All right.
Yep.
How has been that journey?
Good. So far, so good.
Okay. I'm asking about UK, US.
Love life? No, I never had anyone.
Your focus was?
I was focused and busy working, because I knew if I went to that direction, I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do. Because nchali mgani nataka kuna work like 3 months ndo namuona, or 4 months. It's crazy. So siku concentrate on love life when I was abroad. It was just work.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I got to Kenya, then.
Let's go back to 2018. That's when your mom passed.
Right.
She passed when you were away?
When I was away, and I was only 6 months in the US. Yeah.
So you didn't come for the burial?
I didn't come for the burial. Singeweza kukuja.
Okay. But I'm sure when you came back, you went
Definitely.
to her resting place.
I did.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
You kept mentioning a few people.
Right.
Like your brother. And the friends who helps you in construction of the house. Because, and I'm referring to the house because this is one of the most tangible item we can see as a result of what you did, because it's a beautiful house, it's a big house.
Thank you.
But of course there are now other pieces of land that you have. I don't know what you're planning to do with them, you will tell us. But now maybe you can now bring in, give that vote of thanks to the people.
Right.
And then you tell us what you want to do with the other pieces of land. You want to sell, you want to construct. Yeah.
All right. First of all, I would like to give a vote of thanks to my brother, who is my sweetheart. I love him so much, my big brother, Alex Chege. I think you'll be able to see this with your family. Without you guys, I would not be where I am today. They took care of my son the best way ever. I don't even think they could take care of my son like that if I was in Kenya. They gave him the best. That's what I would say. So thank you guys. I'm forever grateful. The other person that I would like to thank is Betty AZ. People know him. People know her from YouTube. She was my friend in the UK. She's the one who inspired me to go to the US. I went there. She picked me up from the airport with Mike. Wakani host call for a couple of, I think, a month or less. Then after that, I went to a lady called Virginia Mwaora. God, this woman is an angel. I don't know what to say about this woman. Ni Mama Teresa. So many people in the US wamepitia kwa mikono yake. She hosted a lot of people. And she's a wonderful woman. Hata ukimpigia saizi mwambie kuna mtu wako anaenda US leo, ataenda kwa kwake. She's that good.
In which state?
Phoenix, Arizona. So that is Virginia Mwaora with her family. They took me as one of their family members, a sister, up to date. Actually, the son was here 2 weeks ago with the wife. Walikuja kunitembelea all the way from the US. So Virginia, nawapenda sana. Betty AZ, thank you guys. Kama si nyinyi, I owe this success to you guys. All of you, you've been there for me. To my friend, Minnesota, love you. I love you so much. I think that's all I would say.
All right.
Yeah.
We also appreciate those who have held your hands.
Yes.
During this journey.
Right.
So how can you be contacted for business? For business.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you can contact me through 0756 675355.
That is for business.
That's for business.
Events.
Only.
And pool tables.
Yes. Strictly business.
No calls after 5 p.m.
No calls after 5 p.m.
Thank you so much. I think we've been inspired.
Thank you.
I don't know, which animal works so hard?
I don't know, unless you tell me.
Because what you have today is as a result of what you did in the US mostly, and of course God's favor.
Right.
But I think I have been inspired. I hope they have also been inspired that when you focus on something, you can do it.
You can do it.
Yes.
It's possible.
Thank you so much, Lilian, for your story, your experience across the world. And now back here in Kenya. If somebody wanted to go there, can they contact you for a word of advice?
Of course, of course they can. And I tell people, me says yambia mtu don't go abroad. Go. You know what you want. As long as you're focused, enda. Says go. I know it's hard. You know, the problem with Kenyans, they don't like tukisema majuni kugumu, life is so hard. Then they take it like hatutaki waende. No. We're just telling you how things are there. But you can go. Me, I'd love everyone to go. I wish it was a visa-free place that all of us can just go. So yeah, ukipata opportunity, go, work, be like me or even more than me. Yeah.
And they may have their King's Palace.
Of
Shukks
course,
Palace.
Mine is Shukks Palace. You can have your Queens of King's Palace. Yeah.
Tuko family, that's the story and experience of Lilian Muthoni Washuka, also known as Shukks. She has built her palace, Shukks Palace, right here. And it is out of hard work, grace of God and His favor, and of course, her laser sharp focus. I hope you've been inspired like we have been right here on Tuko Talks. My name is Kingori Wangeshi. Until next time, God bless.